Welcome. What is up? This is the Innate Effect podcast with Dr. Alex DeFrancisco, where we talk about everything from health to wellness to business and mindset in the everyday life of a pediatric chiropractor. So without further ado, let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the latest episode of the Innate Effect podcast. Today's episode is labeled You and Your Life Force. So what does that mean? See, what I want to talk about today is this concept that really, in my opinion, helps set chiropractic apart from traditional healthcare, that traditional healthcare model, their philosophy, and just how they operate compared to how we see things and how we see the human body, right? So today I want to talk and focus about our practice's namesake, which is innate intelligence. So you see the word itself. Let's start with the word itself. Very simply, the definition is inborn or born with. So it's an intelligence that you are born with from the moment of conception, not even the moment of birth, because you have to think about all of the different processes that a fetus is going to go through from the moment of conception, right? So these all occur in the same order, in the same sequence, and every single baby follows them, like I said, in the same sequence, in order to become, for that fetus, in order to become a healthy baby. It follows the exact same instructions, the exact same sequence, in about the same amount of time for every single baby, at least the healthy ones, right? So how does every fetus know to do this? How does every mother know to do these different things at different points in their pregnancy, right? All of it is never really thought of. It just kind of happens, right? So why is that? That, again, is where that inborn intelligence comes from, not even from the moment, like I said, from birth, but from the moment of conception, right? So now let's think about when birth actually happens. Think about all the things that happen to a pregnant mother while she's giving birth. Think about all the different things that a baby does in order to be born, right? The kickoff, the dilation of the cervix, all of these things that allow a baby to be born. We've all heard of the saying, trying to push a watermelon through a straw. How does that happen, right? Nobody thinks about this. It's just natural. It just happens, right? And then from the moment that that baby's born, when it's out into the real world, think of all the things that the body's doing just naturally, that baby doesn't have to think about. Think about when you were born. Do you remember what that day was like? No, nobody does. But your lungs, they knew how to breathe. Your heart, it knew how to beat. Your ears helped you decipher the different voices in that room. That baby knew exactly who mom was the moment it heard her voice, right? How is that? It was never outside of mom, but somehow those ears were functioning, which allowed the brain to understand, oh, that's mom. I know who she is, right? That was natural. It wasn't anything that it was told. It was never explained. Like, hey, this is mom. It just knew, oh, this is mom. And now I have to climb up and we're going to go ahead and start feeding right now because I know where mom is, right? So from that moment forward, all human beings, they have the exact amount of information and instructions in order to be a functioning human being, right? That an inborn innate intelligence allows you to operate essentially in survival mode, right? Everything else you're going to start to learn, right? Whether that's language or different skills, walking, crawling, all of those things are eventually learned, right? But all of the things that you need in order to have a functioning human body, those things happen regardless. Those things happen naturally. You don't ever need to be taught, like, all right, this is how your heart beats. Make sure that your heart's always beating, because if it doesn't beat, you're not going to be working anymore, right? And then make sure that the lungs, they're breathing concurrently, so it helps push that blood through. All of those things, they just happen naturally, right? So it comes from a very specific program in your brain that's transmitted down your spinal cord and out from every nerve to every corner of your body, right? That's what allows this program. You can almost think of it as like a supercomputer program. Why all of these things are happening all at once, naturally, without you thinking about it. It's because, like I said, it's inborn, it's natural, it's intelligent, and you have this programmed inside of your brain that allows it to be run, again, through your spinal cord and through those nerves, right? So this inborn intelligence, it never takes a moment off. It is working every second of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year. It never takes a moment off. It's always functioning, it's always learning, and it's always adapting so that you are best suited for whatever environment you're in, whatever stressors you put your body under. This program is constantly learning and understanding and adapting, right? It's the same thing that we're seeing today. Well, somewhat the same thing, to just kind of give you an idea that we're seeing with this artificial intelligence, right? It's very close, it's very similar to the same name, right? This intelligence was artificially created, where you were innately or inborn or given at birth this natural intelligence that allows you to continue to function and adapt and program yourself in order to carry on life, right? That innate intelligence continues to allow you to breathe, allow you to live, but that learning, that's constantly happening also, right? And it's constantly making you better, right? And the default setting to this program, thank God, it's always set to heal. It's always set to healing mode. It is never set on or intent on hurting the vehicle. So in our situation, human beings, but it could be dogs, cats, animals, anything that's alive, right? It's always set to healing mode. It's never set to hurt the host or the vehicle in which it's programmed into, right? And that's really what makes us different from just like this pen or the desk that that I'm at, right? This desk is going to continue to be the exact same desk that it's always been, always, until something unnatural or something else does something to it, right? The desk will continue to look this way for centuries if it's kept in a place where it's never, obstructed or touched. Same thing with this pen. Now, we look very different from the moment we were born till now, right? We can all agree upon that you look different in different pictures, you feel different on different days. What is that difference? What is that life force, right, that animates human beings and other living things? That's the difference between us and, like I said, these inanimate objects, because they're never going to adapt. They're never going to become something more than what they already are, right? So as long as this program is able to run unobstructed, it's always going to be set to healing mode. So you're always going, and as long as it's receiving accurate information to what's going on within your body, it's going to be able to make the necessary adaptations and adjustments and be able to send the necessary resources to whatever part of your body needs them, right? This perfect program, you can almost look at it as like a positive feedback loop, right? The brain asks the rest of the body, what do you need? Through the spinal cord, out through the nerves, to whatever part of the body that is functioning, which is all of it all the time. So then the body responds to those nerves, back to the spinal cord, up the spinal cord to the brain. The brain receives it. Like I said, as long as it's accurate information, it's going to say, okay, I can do that. And it sends all the resources out. And that's this positive feedback loop. That's perfect health. And quite frankly, that's normal. That's what should be happening on a day-to-day basis. Your brain-body connection and your body-brain connection should be in total and constant communication and constantly fluctuating and adapting to allow you to be in your best state, right? This program is also what allows you to heal from a cut, right? So what does the healing, why all of a sudden does this cut on your arm or your leg or wherever it is? What allows the body to start to patch that up, right? To heal and no longer have a cut on your arm, right? It helps rebuild bone after it's broken, obviously, especially when it's set back into place. What allows that bone to regenerate in more or less just as good of new fashion, right? It also increases the capacity for strength and for speed when you're constantly putting your body under these stressful circumstances on a consistent basis, right? So what does that mean? It means working out. Why is it that you get stronger when you continually lift heavy things on a consistent basis? Your body, that innate intelligence, that programming starts to understand, oh, Well, if I just increase muscle mass in this place, and this place, it's going to help make this job easier, because for whatever reason, this guy or this girl continues to put us under this stressful situation. So I don't want to keep inefficiently working. So I'll just increase muscle mass here, here, and here, and it should make this job easier. Or this guy or girl, this person continues to run this certain distance. So if we expand the capacity for which our capacity for our lungs, if we can get more oxygen in and get more CO2 out, and if we can do that more efficiently, we're going to be able to run much further, and we're going to be able to do this job that this person continually puts us under, right? This stressful situation. And it doesn't just stop there. It doesn't stop with physical stuff. Think about mentally, right? If you continually recite the same page of notes over and over and over again, when it finally comes time for the test, if you continually put your mind under this stressful situation, like I have to remember these things in this order so that when it's asked on the test, I'm able to regenerate that knowledge in the correct order and answer the correct questions. Again, the more you do that, the better the grade that you're going to get, right? It's the same thing. Think about emotionally. If you're like, I'm not going to let this person get to me. I'm not going to let my emotions just fly off the handles. If somebody says something that I don't agree with, or somebody does something that I don't like, I'm in control of these emotions. So if you're constantly putting yourself in these emotionally stressful situations, but work on handling it, you're going to get better at handling those same situations, right? That program, physical, mental, emotional, it's going to learn, and it's going to be like, all right, how do we more efficiently handle these stressful situations? Because it doesn't want to be in those situations. It doesn't want to have to continually use that high amount of output, right? It wants to use the least amount of output as humanly possible, because it wants to save as much energy as humanly possible to allow for all of these other things to continue to function. Right? Your heart needs to continue to beat, your lungs need to continue to breathe, blood needs pumped, insulin needs produced. All of these things also have to be happening on top of these stressful situations, the stressful environments that your body's put under. It has to do all of these things all at once. So it's going to learn to adapt to these different situations so it can use less energy adapting to the environment and focus more internally and say, let's make these things all work. So that's the biggest difference, or that's really what's going on in our body at all times, right? So now I'm sure at this point you're probably wondering, if this intelligence is so perfect, if it's so great, if it's constantly looking to heal us, why do people get sick? Why do people get the flu? Why do people have digestive issues? Why do some kids have ADD, ADHD? Why do kids get ear infections? Why do people have low back pain? Why do these things happen? Right? And so the simplest answer, the easiest answer, is that innate intelligence, this program, it's always perfect. It's always 100%. It's always working. However, the vehicle in which it's operating in, i.e. our bodies, those are not perfect, right? We are limited. Our matter is limited to the functions of the natural world, right? So your body can only do what can naturally be done. Right? You can't all of a sudden just start levitating things as cool. My gosh, as cool as that would be to be able to use the force. That's not natural, right? You can't all of a sudden turn into Mr. Fantastic, right? And be really stretchy, or you all of a sudden can't like up level 3 sizes and your skin turns green and you turn into the Hulk, right? Those things don't happen in the real world, right? So our bodies are limited because they are matter. There's only so many things you can do with them before they break. Right? So that's the part that I want to talk about, is when you push your body to these different parts, to these different limits of adaptation that matter is able to do, right? Whether it is mentally, emotionally, physically, when you go and surpass the amount of stress that your body can handle in those types of situations, that's what's going to start to create a level of interference in your nervous system, right? Which is going to distort the communication between brain to body or body back up to brain, right? That's what we talked about in these last couple of pods on what a subluxation is, right? So the really simple way is that it's distorting the communication between brain and body somewhere at the spinal cord level, right? That misalignment happens. Now all of a sudden that communication doesn't happen the way that it should. And now that's when dysfunction starts to happen, right? So the brain's getting not as accurate information as it should be, which means innate intelligence, although it continues to act 100% of the time, and although that the default setting is still healing, it's not getting the right information, right? So it's like the body, a part of your body's asking for, we'll say 10 units of whatever resources it needs, but somewhere along the journey from nerve to spinal cord and spinal cord up to the brain, that message gets distorted. Well, then what happens? The brain actually gets the message that says, oh, we just need 4 units. But in reality, that body part needed 10 units, right? So brain's like, all right, cool. If that's all I need, I'm going to send the 4 units. And the body's like, no. We needed 10 units. Well, now we need 15. Well, now the brain, again, gets the wrong information and is like, okay, if you only need 5 units, I guess I'll just send you 5. And now instead of a positive feedback loop, now we have a negative feedback loop that continues to feed on itself. And if that dysfunction continues for days, weeks, months, years, it's something that you're going to hear me continually say, this dysfunction can start to look like ear infections in kids. It can start to look like ADD, ADHD. It can start to look like digestive issues. It can look like poor sleep quality. It can look like low back pain. It can look like migraines, because that particular area of the body is not getting the resources it needs, because somewhere along the way, there's a subluxation because there was too much stress, which caused interference in the nervous system, which distorts the communication from brain to body and body to brain, which doesn't allow your body to operate in its most optimal state. Did you get all that? That was pretty good. That I just kind of let that one flow. That one felt good. So that's what makes chiropractic so unique, is, to my knowledge, it's one of the few healthcare professions that even acknowledges this interference, right? And so if we that acknowledges this intelligence. So if we first acknowledge this intelligence, this inborn innate intelligence within us, we can then acknowledge that there's some sort of disruption to it. There's some sort of interference to it somewhere in the nervous system, most likely in the spinal cord, which then allows, if we can understand it and we can detect it, we can then correct it through the chiropractic adjustment, which then restores the proper communication to brain to body and body to brain, which allows your innate intelligence to start sending out the right information and send out the right resources and start making the healing moves and adjustments that your body has so desperately needed. So we're not solving anything in particular. We're optimizing your nervous system, which then allows your brain and allows your body to make the adjustments that you need, right? You're the one doing the healing. It's not some prescription that you were given. It's not some exercise that you're doing. We're optimizing your internal nervous system, which allows your body to then express itself at its greatest capacity, right? So what do chiropractors do, right? We ensure an optimal nervous system, whether you are sick or healthy, whether you're in the best shape of your life or you're in the worst shape of your life, or anywhere in between, right? You're only going to traditional healthcare models when you're sick. And at that point, I don't want to say it's too late, but there could have been so many other things that help preventing you from getting in that position in the first place, right? So in my opinion, preventative care is the best care. Let's just never get to that situation. Let's be in the best situation that we can be at all times, right? Why do we have to run ourselves down to the point where we're so sick that we have to take time off of work, that we have to sit down, that we have to sleep in, right? Why don't we take these measures beforehand, which then will allow us to go further, faster, longer, more often than not, right? So to wrap this all up, to make it really simple, there's greatness in all of us, every single person, there's greatness in you. The same stuff that makes up the universe, which is continually expanding by the millisecond, which continues to just go on into infinity. The same main components that make up that universe are in you. It's the same components that make up human beings. That greatness is somewhere in you. And what we do as chiropractors, what we do as pediatric chiropractors, what we do as chiropractors for elderly people, for athletes, for for even animals, for anybody that's under chiropractic care, your chiropractor is helping reach that greatness within you and allow it to express itself. And that's what we do on a daily basis. And that's why I started this podcast. And that's why I love the practice that I'm in. That's why I'm so grateful. And that's why, like I said, I hopped on this podcast, because I think more people need to hear about this. I think if more people hear about this, if they understand, like, hey, you're okay. It's somewhere. The answers are in you somewhere. You just need some help finding them. Why is that any different than anything else in life? All of the greatest people know that there are answers out there, and they use any and all resources available to them to get there. Chiropractic works for everybody, whether you believe in it or not. Just like how that greatness is in you, whether you believe in it or not. The question is, are you going to go get it? So I appreciate you guys listening today. If this really touched you, if anything resonated with you, if you feel like somebody needs to hear this, give us a like, give us a follow, put this on your Instagram story. We're going to keep pumping these things out. I'm really having fun with this, guys, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak to you on topics that I love. So until next time, I'm Dr. Alex DeFrancisco, and this is the Innate Effect Podcast.